Some dare call it conspiracy.
Welcome to Chemtrails on Trial, an 8-part series produced by Some Dare Call It Conspiracy. If you would like access to the entire series right now, join us on patreon.com/Some Dare Call It Conspiracy. The following episode deals with the conspiracy theory. Now, episode 1. Here we are with Ivor Mecton today, our buddy from Lads on Tour.
Way.
How about you introduce yourself to anyone who doesn't know who you are?
So I'm a metallurgist, and I'm presuming that's why I've been sort of invited on today. So I'm an ex-conspiracist. Back in 2014, I got into very heavily into the 9/11 conspiracy and the 7/7 conspiracy. So there was a few months where I was very concerned with that. But then I sort of got out. Then I sort of came back during the COVID era to write a book debunking a lot of the tropes and sort of satirizing it. I've made about $1,100 off it. I've done 2 editions. So there's the regular edition and the multiple dead dewormed horses edition, which is double the length and double the laugh. So that's who I am.
Excellent. That's nicely done. And a metallurgist as well. So, okay, in your opinion, who's better, Slayer or Metallica?
Oh, right. I'm more of a fan of Metallica, to be honest.
Really? Travesty. Well, fair enough. Right. I suppose that's what you get with all that book learning.
I'm a Metallica fan more as well, to be fair.
Really? What, more than Slayer?
Yeah, look, come on. Slayer's art, for 2 albums. It's just the same over and over. At least Metallica kind of evolves.
Well, yeah, but it's not always a good evolution, is it? I mean,
The evolution stops when I've realised what a dick James Hetfield was.
Well, yeah, there is that as well. I do love that documentary, Some Kind of Monster. I will watch that over and over again just to see these preening idiots.
I haven't seen it in years, actually. All I know is with Saint Anger, they replaced the drums with literal oil drums, which were empty. And then that was how they got that sound.
To be honest, when that first came out, I was like, this is all right. And very, very shortly afterwards, I was like, it's not though, is it actually? No, it's shocking. I don't know why. I thought it was okay. But
all the songs blur into one each other, and they're all so long.
Yeah.
And they're all,
yeah, hey-ho.
What, that's Metallica? Have you not heard And Justice for All?
Yeah, but they were good. Obviously there's no bass on it, but yeah, they were actually quite good.
If I listen to And Justice for All, I always listen to a fan version with the bass put back in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right, what are we chatting about today then?
Chemtrails.
They are back, aren't they? With a vengeance. So, everybody seems to be.
They really are.
I saw David posting something just yesterday. Chemtrails aren't conspiracy theory; they're conspiracy fact. Yeah, various other people have just all of a sudden got very, very worried about chemtrails
Since lockdown.
Yeah,
since everyone was locked down, and since everyone started kind of waking up, i.e., receiving it all on their Telegrams and their WhatsApps and Facebook and everything.
Yeah.
They're always talking about chemtrails. I think it must be because they were home.
Well, yeah, it's because and it's because you don't get chemtrails in the winter because you complete cover anyway, basically. So there needs to be nice weather in order for chemtrails to be noticed, basically.
And when did lockdown start?
Yeah, quite. Was it March?
Yeah,
March.
Yeah, and it was a particularly warm March as well, wasn't it? So
it's sort of seems to be a thing as the COVID stuff is dying down now. They've got to send it somewhere else, haven't they?
Yeah, this is true. But weirdly, we didn't actually decide to do chemtrails because of the huge amount of chemtrail talk. We were going to do it anyway, and then bizarrely, everyone started talking about chemtrails again. So maybe we were influenced by the same thing. Who knows? Maybe there's some sort of chemtrails mind control program to get people talking about chemtrails.
Well, I guess we'll uncover it.
Well, yeah. Let's hope. But chemtrails. So what's everyone's experience with chemtrails? I'll be honest, right? Chemtrails, which is the idea that certain planes are pumping stuff out of the back of their engines as part of a plot. There's various reasons or suggestions as to why they might be doing this. Some think that it's benevolent but secret. Most people think that it's nasty, that it's either sort of trying to depopulate the planet or geo-engineer the planet for some sort of nefarious means, or that it's some sort of mind control program or is connected with something horrible, basically. And I remember the first time I heard about the theory, I got a DVD off eBay. There was this guy that was getting DVDs off, and you'd buy one and he'd send you like 5, basically. And so you'd go, oh, crikey, what's this? Never heard of them, whacked it on, and I'll be honest, it terrified me. It terrified me to the point where it was one of the few things where it's like, I'm not going to tell my mum about this. Like, I told her about Bohemian Grove, and I told her about suspicions about 9/11, and I told her about satanic stuff and McMartin preschool and mind control and theories about JFK and stuff like that. But with chemtrails, it was like, the concept is that basically, like, there's nothing you can do about it. The airplanes are pumping out this horrible stuff that's, well, in the DVD that I got, they were there to poison you and to depopulate the planet and to make people ill all the time. And I was like, no, I don't think I need to tell my mum about that one. I think she'll be happier living her life without the knowledge of such a nefarious thing happening. And then I told my mates about it, and we looked and we were like, well, hang on. These things are staying in the atmosphere. And my friend of mine used to live in a sort of a high-rise flat. And we used to sort of like look out at the chemtrails and almost be able to see these trails sort of spreading and dissipating across the sky. And it looked, for all intents and purposes, like there was some sort of fibrous material in the smoke. Do you know what I mean? That it was sort of almost sort of coming apart and spreading across the sky. So for a long time, we were like, crikey, this is plausible. Or at the very least, we were saying, well, you know what they're describing in the video?
I can see that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, they make some very, very bold claims. There's some very, very sort of like, scientists and people that aren't just sort of your man on the street or whatever. And they're making some very bold claims about metals in soil, metals that are in water and stuff like that. So initially, I was like, wow. Now, this was, years ago, like when I was about 20 or whatever. Like, crikey, this could actually be a thing.
So I never really had much experience with chemtrails. It was sort of like one I sort of heard of, but never really got mad into or anything. So I came across it a little bit, but not something I went super into. I did encounter water fluoridation, but that was like during the later phase of it. I probably would have encountered it had I stayed in another month, another 2 months.
Chemtrails was one of those things where it was just like, it was like a sort of truism. I don't think there's anybody that I can think of in the truth movement or any of the major figures or anybody really that's gone, no, I don't believe in chemtrails or chemtrails aren't a thing.
Yeah, they're definitely something, right?
Yeah.
That's what everyone kind of says, because that's what I had. So I've had a strange relationship with the chemtrail stuff, like through the 15 years. Like I had different sort of understandings of it, like as time went on. So when I first come across it, it's kind of like, I'm pretty sure David Icke might have put me onto it in some of his lectures. Like, so then he's like, referencing Nick Begich and people like that. So I started to go look into that, and he's like talking about HAARP and everything. And I start to think that the chemtrails at that point are like a mind control thing because of the HAARP, because like they're pushing out the electromagnetic frequencies into that, and it's supposed to be like keeping us in this reality, like through mind control. Essentially, it was like something like that.
So like the metal that's being pumped out of the planes or whatever acts as a sort of conductor or a grid or whatever. Yes. So HAARP's pumping out like the mind control programs or the whatever. And the way that it's able to get all across the globe is by using these chemtrails, which are essentially metal, in order to like a wire system, like a sort of across the planet.
Yeah, that's kind of where I was at the beginning, and then it's sort of, I don't know why, but it just sort of evolves more into believing that it's part of the depopulation plan instead. So they're spraying poisons, and it wasn't that just like. See, I used to think there was like the depopulation plan was like multi-layered or multifaceted. There's different ways they were doing it. So through the food, through the water, through the air, through our furniture and stuff, all the stuff that has like really like toxic stuff in it. So you're getting it from all these different places. Like not one thing's going to kill you. It's going to be loads of it.
Yeah.
So I felt like the depopulation plan was a soft kill.
Yeah.
So chemtrails was part of this soft kill. People like say, oh, well, wouldn't the elites be exposed to it?
Yeah.
And my thought was, yeah, you could be exposed to the chemtrails, but as long as you're not doing the fluoride and you're not taking the antidepressants or the vaccines and all these other things, then you're not going to be that affected.
Yeah. Like in the first Batman film.
Yes.
It's not just not just the aftershave. You've got to use the aftershave in conjunction with the deodorant and the shampoo.
Maybe that's where I was coming from. I was such a big Batman fan as a kid. Wow.
But the thing was as well, like if you're in that mindset, that does make it more plausible. Because the thing about a sort of depopulation agenda, it's like, well, wouldn't we notice this? And it's like, well, no, you see, because it's coming at you from all angles. It's not that everybody's all dying from one thing so that we can go, well, it's definitely this. That was the sort of the cunning and multifaceted nature of the plot of depopulation.
Yeah, it's an agenda, isn't it? It's a plan. It rolls out.
Yeah, it's like death by 1,000 cuts, basically. Some people the food will do for them. Some people the water will do for them. Some people the sort of introduced and encouraged sedentary lifestyle will do for them. Some the stuff in the sky. Some the chemicals in as you say, your furniture and clothing and stuff like that. And that was it, really. And then some would be, when they needed a mega boost or whatever, they'd start a war and or have some sort of sacrificial terrorist attack or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hello, initiates of the Some Dare Call It Conspiracy podcast. Dom Jolly here. How are you? Sorry to butt in, but I just wanted to let you know that I've written, a book that I'm very, very proud of called The Conspiracy Tourist, in which I travel around the world taking a look at the weird world of conspiracies, and I think you might like it. Not only that, but I'm touring the book and doing live shows all around England from the 28th of Feb to the end of March, and it would be smashing to see you there. I think you'd like it. If you are interested, go to my website, www.domjolly.tv. And now, on with the podcast. Thanks.
And then it would move from that into, I started to think it was more about weather manipulation. So I thought it was kind of actually part of the climate change hoax.
Yeah.
Like that's where I was saying like the 2012 to 2018 sort of era. I started thinking it was more to do with that.
Well, they were trying to cool the planet down or whatever, or to sort of...
No, they were faking climate change with it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. They're not... So like, whereas geoengineering is seen as like a sort of cure for climate change, the sort of the double bluff is that actually they're causing climate change, or they're giving the impression of climate change, because then they can funnel all this money into green agenda, which is then going to get laundered for wherever else, basically.
That's exactly where I was.
So what do you think of the theory that Einstein invented the weather control device to help the Allies in the Cold War? It's a Red Alert 2 reference.
Oh, right. I thought you were about the Philadelphia experiment thing. Right, for a second there, but...
Yeah, because the Allies' super weapon is a weather control device which makes a massive storm.
Oh, right, okay. Fair enough. The other thing, though, about the chemtrails thing was it sort of tacitly, if you believe that chemtrails are a thing, and by which I mean that something is happening. We don't know exactly what it is. Even if it's not nefarious, even if it's just secretive geoengineering, what it does feed into is the concept of a new world order, an Illuminati, or a burgeoning one world government. Because basically, it's happening everywhere.
Absolutely.
Like, you can see it everywhere. So if it's happening everywhere, it must be something that bypasses government in order to do that. And so what it implies is that there is a degree or a level somewhere within the world strata where there's this hidden hand behind, where everybody knows the agenda, everybody gets on, and all these wars and political and geopolitical sort of battles or sort of disagreements are all for the tourists. They're basically just for show. And in many ways, I mean, it is a bit circular thinking, but in many ways, that's why I suppose a lot of people are into the concept of chemtrails, because I've heard Alex Jones talk about him, Freeman, David Icke, Max Egan, everybody, basically, literally anybody. Yeah, everybody you can mention has spoken about chemtrails at some point. And I think it is because it just gives the idea that there must be some sort of cooperation. Otherwise, how are they possibly appearing all over the planet?
Yes, this is my point exactly. Like, a lot of people seem to think chemtrails, it's just a silly one. It's not like really a dangerous conspiracy or anything, But no, it is. It's a gateway, right? It is very much a gateway to the grand conspiracy.
Yes.
Because it can't be happening just like, innocently. Obviously, it's going on around the entire world.
Because obviously this isn't just one airline which is doing it, one engine manufacturer like Rolls-Royce or Pratt & Whitney which is doing it. It's got to be higher than that.
Yeah, it's not even one country, is it? It's not one military. It doesn't even fall into one sector. Like, it's not a NATO thing because you can see them in Russia. Right, it's not a Western thing because you can see them in Japan. Do you know what I mean? They're everywhere. People that basically have got absolutely no seeming connection. Although I'm sure I've heard, and there's no evidence about this, but isn't there a meme floating around that there's no chemtrails in North Korea or something like that? I'm sure I've seen that.
Probably.
I mean, do they have airlines in North Korea?
Well, that may be the reason for it. Like, to be quite honest, there's no chemtrails on the London Underground. You never know.
Now, I think as well with chemtrails, why it sort of maybe sparks people up is because I was going for a walk the other day and the sky was like 100% blue, 360 degrees. It looked very, very pretty.
Yeah.
Like if there was a line across it, you'd think, that's unnatural.
Yes, very much so.
That wrecks the aesthetic. Like, I can get why people don't like the look of it, and that can then send them in a different direction.
We've all seen it. We've all got up and it's a pretty nice day, and you're like, I reckon it's going to be pretty cool today. And then by lunchtime, it's cloud cover, basically. And all that you've seen is a few planes going over and stuff like that. And it certainly seems to contribute to the cloud cover. Like, that's not a thing, if that makes sense, right? Okay, we've all observed that. Well, there's certainly a thing. This is the point. The visual evidence of chemtrails is happening, basically, and it's a worldwide thing. Essentially, they are contrails that don't dissipate. They linger and they spread, and eventually they either make crisscross patterns across the sky, and this eventually leads to cloud cover. And these are observed things. You can show time-lapse videos of this happening. You can show photographs of this happening. This is definitely a thing that is happening. Whether there's a more plausible or rational explanation for it rather than chemtrails, we don't know. The major film that was made about it is What in the World Are They Spraying?, which a lot of people have probably, if they've not seen it, they've probably heard of it, or at least heard of some of the evidence through sort of other people. And essentially, what they talk about is that they've found physical evidence on the ground that also feeds into this theory. So it isn't just as straightforward as looking at the sky, although that is where the theory started.
It's the gateway, isn't it? The gateway is just the looking at the sky part, and then you start going into the full conspiracy.
Yeah, quite. But as we say, like the visual aspect of it, that is definitely a phenomenon that is happening. So whether there is a rational explanation for this or not, we'll find out. But you can see why people would go, hang on. And again, this also feeds into the distrust of institutions, distrust of government as well, because you're in a bit of a catch-22 with this, right? Because if, say, any government official or scientist or anybody comes out and says, yeah, we're not chemtrailing you. Of course, the government isn't trying to murder you, like through soft kill, slow kill, or silent kill weaponry. That would be ridiculous. And the response to that would be, yeah, but you're not going to tell us that, are you? Like, it's not like Dr. Crippen was going around giving clues like that might kill you. Go on, drink your tea. Like, you get caught if you do things like that. So So this is the point. The problem is, again, with it, it's slightly circular, whereas you've noticed something that's odd, and it's definitely a thing. There's people who are giving an explanation for this, and the people who are doubting or sort of countering that explanation are people that we don't trust. And again, if you believe the theory, give any credence to the theory, you would go, well, of course they can't possibly admit it. So what you need to do is you need to look at the evidence as presented and see if it holds water, basically. See if it stands up to scrutiny, and see what the actual theory is.
So what is this theory?
Well, the theory is that certain airlines are leaving lingering contrails. Contrails is the fumes, if you like, the exhaust fumes that come out the back of engines of planes. And this has always been a thing. But in the 90s, certain people started noticing that actually there were a lot more of these emissions, and these emissions were lingering for a lot longer. The idea is that a contrail, which is just the exhaust fume, will only stay around for a few seconds, maybe a minute. But some of these started to not only linger, but spread, and then start to cover a vast amount of the sky. And then you'd see other planes coming in, and they would leave contrails that would spread. And so they would form these grid patterns and eventually cover the entire sky. And upon investigation on the sort of the ground beneath it, certain people suggested that there was dangerous particulate in these jet fumes, basically. So they called them chemtrails. It's not, well, there are chemicals, because there's chemicals in anything. It's mostly supposed to be metals like aluminium, strontium, barium. And these are supposed to have a detrimental effect on respiratory systems. They're supposed to potentially cause diseases like Alzheimer's. They can destroy crops and soil. And the reasons for this are quite varied. Some people think this, as you say, is a depopulation to the program. Some people think that they're spreading Morgellons disease. Some people think that it's about destroying the natural agriculture so that you have to go and buy Monsanto seeds that are resistant to these chemicals. Some people think that they just want to depopulate the planet or make people ill or dumb them down, and this is a mechanism for it. So that's the theory.
Everything you just said was about being controlled by someone else.
Well, this is the thing. And if, as we mentioned earlier, it is a control mechanism, either controlling your life or controlling your mind or controlling the food that you're able to eat. And in order for this to happen, this would need to be a world-spanning program. This couldn't just be done in one country or by one political party or by one sort of military faction or anything. This would have to be a global program that was at the very, very highest and most secret level that, as we said before, would imply a degree of cooperation behind the scenes that is not played out in the mainstream media.
Thank you for listening to Chemtrails on Trial, produced by Brent Lee and Neil Sanders for Some Dare Call It Conspiracy. And don't forget, if you can't wait for next week, do join us on patreon.com/Some Dare Call It Conspiracy, where you'll not only be able to get the entire series right now, but also ad-free episodes, plus tons of other goodies, including my music, Neil's books, audiobooks of Neil's, and art by Nicholas C. Gray. You can also find all our links at www.somedarecallitconspiracy.com.